All right, time for a little fantasy football. D Nasty is back, Dave. Here we are. We're in the playoffs, and these two crappy games usually wouldn't be paid much attention to if it wasn't the playoffs. So I think the NFL knows what they're doing. They made it a somewhat relevant day to watch some football.
Exactly. I got a bunch of people on the Vikings, and I got Kirk Cousins, so I need to do somewhat well tonight as well. So yeah, definitely be watching these games tonight for sure.
Yeah, he's the Bears not doing so great. They blew 2 fourth downs where they should have at least had 3 points out of it. And it's just the Bears, and I got the Vikings teased down to a half point, so I'm pretty good. My big question
is the Bears. Bears will be the Bears.
They beat themselves more than anybody, so they're better at beating themselves than the opponents. So that's just how they are. That's life in Bears fandom. But here we are. We got playoffs. I'm doing okay in one league, not in the other. How about you? How's your playoffs going?
Actually, I'm doing well in all of them except for one in Shooty's league. Actually, the one that you're in with me. That's the one I'm not doing well in. Actually, the other guy had the highest score of the week, I think, who I played this week. So just bad luck this week. I scored like 180 points, and I'm still going to lose. So
262. Oh my God. There's Roquan Dewitt's is up to 262 right now. So
yeah, him and this other guy are the two highest scores for the week, and I played one of those guys.
Yeah, he's got like Devontae Adams, James Conner, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jared Goff absolutely went off against me in the league, and it's just like nothing you can do. It's like that was the shootout game of the century, of course. Of course, the Bills just come off the Rams shootout game. It's just like Josh Allen's just balling out, man. He is MVP, and definitely the best fantasy guy in all of football. Well, here we are, man, and lots of craziness this week. We have no bye weeks as usual, but we do have a lot of injuries, Dave. And I'll start. There's you like to fill in the gaps really well. So Trey Benson is out with an ankle injury. He's not super. He's more of a handcuff to Connor for the Cardinals. But Nick Chubb, people have been waiting for him to come back all year. Now he breaks his foot and he's out for the rest of the season, Dave. So that's nasty. Jameis Winston might have lost his job, and it's about freaking time. It's not like Dorian Thompson-Robinson's any good, so I'm not even sure he's going to make my waiver wire. Julio McLaughlin hurt his quad, so that's interesting for the Denver Broncos. He had a lot of touches back there. Dave Montgomery, huge injury for the Lions and huge fantasy implications, out for the rest of the season with an MCL tear. And so he's getting surgery and he's done on the shelf along with everybody on the Lions defense. So that's good for your Packer fans, but it's not so good.
Love it
for the poor Lions. They have to keep scoring all week long. Like they have to score into Monday, into Tuesday, into Wednesday. They're not stopping anybody. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes, believe it or not, high ankle injury. I think they hold him off this Saturday and have hopes he plays on Christmas Day against the Steelers. I think that's what they're going to do, Dave. That makes
they have three games in less than, I think they said it within. They have 3 games in like a short period of time, actually, too. So not a good schedule here going forward for him as well.
Not at all. And then you have Alec Pierce with a concussion for the Colts, the lowly Colts, man. Did you see that interception pick 6? Well, first Jonathan Taylor drops the ball, and he's a former Badger, which really got me, man. I was like, no, JT drops. That is just so inexcusable.
And he's not the first one to do that either. I don't know why the players do that. I would take it all the way into the end zone first. And then what Barry Sanders used to get right to the ref. Just hand it right to the ref. You don't have to worry about anything then.
Yeah. Rubbing it in by dropping the ball before you score is not only stupid, it's you actually show yourself that you're the idiot and the other team's the smart one. It changed momentum, and then he threw this crazy pass from the receiver back to the quarterback, and the defensive guy smelled it out and just pick-sixed it.
Nick Benito, that was an awesome play. Yeah, those two were game changers for the Colts, man. They just blew that game away.
Imagine having the Denver defense last week, and it's like you think you're just dead in the water, about to go down 21-0, and your defense all of a sudden scores touchdown. Then you get a special teams touchdown. It's just absolutely insane, the switch in that. And to be honest with you, there's some crazy defenses that did well. The Bengals defense got a couple themselves against the Titans.
That was awesome.
And they scored like 18, 20 points from a team that gave up 31 some point, 27, 31 points, whatever it was. It's just amazing to see that. It's like, I think the rule for fantasy is even if your defense is bad, if you're playing a bad team, they can score some points even more than one of those low scoring, boring games.
Dallas Cowboys had a ton of points against Carolina Panthers, actually, too. They put up some major numbers, too.
Absolutely. So think about that with your waivers. Jalen Waddle hurt his knee and was out for the Dolphins. I think he might miss this week too. So we'll keep an eye on Jalen Waddle. Alvin Kamara left with a groin injury, which is a huge fantasy implication for the Saints. And then you have Geno Smith. He left with a knee injury. We don't know a ton yet about it. Maybe you know more than me. AJ Brown hurt his ankle against the Steelers in a hip drop tackle that the NFL said they were trying to get away with, or get rid of. But I'd say that's stupid because it's just how you're supposed to tackle a big guy. I think the NFL just has to suck it up on that one. But
yeah, it's not football anymore. They're making it not football anymore. We can't even tackle anyone anymore or hit a quarterback anymore. But yeah, I agree.
It's a mess. And then you have the Zach Ertz went out with a concussion, Dave. So what am I missed? Do you have any updates on Geno?
Geno, yeah, they said that no MRI. They're doing MRI today, so no further updates on that one, unfortunately. But they said it could be a multi-week injury, though, so it didn't look good. He was grimacing in pain last night. I was watching that game. Yeah, it was not a good sight at all. So he might be out several weeks, actually. So I wouldn't count on him for this week for sure. Tony Pollard with an ankle injury. He's probably week to week. Saquon Barkley had a minor injury, but he should play this week. Other than that, though, yeah, you covered everything else that I had. The two major ones were the Geno Smith and Pat Mahomes one, and then the running back too, Kamara. Those are some big, huge people this week that could be out for fantasy implications.
Oh, for sure. Well, why don't you get into the waiver wires and see where we're going to fill up the gap, Dave? Fill in the gaps.
Yeah, first one. We talked about a few of these guys last week, actually. Kendre Miller actually played well, and especially with the Kamara injury. Definitely one of the priority waiver wires this week. Actually, Carson Wentz for the Patrick Mahomes injury, and Sam Howell for the Geno Smith injury. Sam Howell looked actually pretty decent last night after just being thrown in there. He was throwing some nice passes, though, and he actually could be a nice fantasy sleeper this week, actually, for the Seahawks. They got some weapons, too. He definitely he was throwing a JSN quite a bit, too. Metcalf wasn't really thrown to a lot last night, which is kind of surprised me. They kind of went away from him a little bit. But, yeah, definitely Sam Howell and Carson Wentz. Those could actually, Howell could be a league winner, actually, or Wentz. Both those guys could be nice pickups this week. Ray Davis actually had another touchdown this week. He looked pretty good. Jaleen McMillan, we talked about him last week. Yeah, he had another good week as well. He scored 3 TDs in the last 2 games. So just keep that in mind if he's still out there. Romeo Doubs, only owned in 38% of leagues right now. He had 2 nice catches, actually, 2 TDs as well. So definitely a guy you want to keep an eye on. Rashad Bateman and Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick actually just keeps scoring. He's like their goal line red zone guy. Just keeps scoring touchdowns each week. So he's got 3 or 4 touchdowns over the past couple weeks as well. Quentin Johnson drew a season-high 10 targets in the loss this last week to the Bucs. So we already talked about him, though, too, last week. So 2 tight ends that actually had good weeks I want to talk about. Brendan Strange.
Did Quentin Johnson get in the end zone?
I don't believe. Actually, I think he did actually score. He had 10 targets, 5 receptions, 45 yards, and a score. Yep.
Okay, good, because he was my nasty sleeper. I couldn't remember.
Yep. And then Aaron Rodgers actually went off as my nasty sleeper. He had one of his best games of the year. So Quentin Johnson really liked him. What's that?
Nice play the Jags for sure.
Yeah. Mac Jones actually played well this past week, had a couple touchdowns. But Brendan Strange, he was targeted a dozen times. He caught 11 of his chances for 73 yards. So with Evan Ingram out the rest of the year, that's definitely he could be a league winner at tight end if you need a tight end. And Stone Smart, he drew 6 targets and he had 5 for 50 yards. So 2 tight ends that are out there, especially with Ertz injury. Definitely want to look at. Aaron Rodgers, he's only owned in 35% of leagues right now. My D-Nasty sleeper last week. He had 289 yards and 3 scores. And he added an unexpected 45 yards rushing as well. So one of his best games this year. So definitely, if he's still out there, definitely pick him up. Dallas Cowboys D, actually. They were actually played really well this past week. And Cooper Rush played well as too. But the defense actually looked really good this week. But they were playing the Panthers, keep in mind. but definitely it's a defense you could stream this week as well.
Yeah, and then you dump them for the Eagles next week. So I totally get that. I guess DJ Dallas would be the handcuff to Connor for the Benson injury. So think about him. Malik Washington for the Waddle injury is interesting too for the Dolphins. Yeah, I put Sam Howell down too, but man, that's a rough one if you got to play Sam Howell there coming on up. Ben Sinnott for the Commanders if Ertz can't go since he had his concussion, he'll probably sit a week. Yep, I agree with Aaron Rodgers. Don't like him, but that's the way it is. Kendry Miller for the Saints will get the start if it's Kamara gone. So Kendry Miller's the real handcuff there. It's not Jamal Williams anymore. Running back Craig Reynolds is probably a big pickup this week for the Lions, a huge one.
Yeah, good call for that one actually.
Yeah, he might be the biggest one even. Carson Wentz could stream this week. It's the Texans. The Texans are not good on the road, so maybe Wentz could do something. And Spencer Rattler is back, and now male model Jake Hayner's going to be benched probably. So Spencer Rattler kind of came in and did pretty good. Jerome Ford really for the Cleveland is definitely the bell cow now for Jerome. It'll be Jerome Ford there, and Pierre Strong kind of his can get handcuffed.
Yeah,
so
agree
with all that. Yep, it's funny. You wonder if Taylor's in the doghouse. Trey Sermon, would kind of come in, and so I wonder that a little bit. I know Najee Harris was in the doghouse last week after he fumbled the ball to the Eagles when they were about to score something. Jeez, that was a weird game. They put in like Patterson or whatever, and he was super in the doghouse. I'm sure he'll play this week, but something to think about. Trey Sermon maybe gets to play a little bit. So there you have it. Yeah, I agree with all yours. Sleepers for this week. Non-starters trending up is what we also like to call it. Running back Jerome Ford against Cincinnati's piss poor defense. I love Jerome Ford this week, so he's going to be massive for a no-name guy. Tajay Spears against Colts, especially if the injuries still prevail there for the Titans. And then Baker Mayfield against Cowboys slaps. I think Baker Mayfield's going to do well this week, and he just keeps doing well every single week because they're always chasing him, man. And
I think Baker Mayfield's a starter for sure by now, though.
I wasn't sure about that, but I think you're right. I probably shouldn't include him, but oh well. Running back Craig Reynolds against the Bears makes a lot of sense too. I think Craig Reynolds will possibly even be running the ball the whole second half in case they want to keep their other running back healthy. They just pick up guys off the scrap heap and throw them in against the Bears. Minnesota's defense against the Seahawks, I like that, especially if it is Sam Howell playing help. Minnesota's defense is going to be hot, but unfortunately, I'm not sure if they're a sleeper. People are probably starting them a lot. Quarterback Caleb Williams, believe it or not, against Detroit's defense. I'm serious, man. This defense is like all
in shambles. They're starting like practice squad players in their secondary.
They're the scrap heap. Absolutely, it's so bad. And then DJ Moore, even I guess, would maybe finally get open and play against the Lions. Wide receiver Jameson Williams, though, on the other side. Against the Bears, it's an easy start for me. I would start Jameson Williams. The Bears look hopeless on defense. Tight end Jake Ferguson against Tampa Bay is interesting. I think Jake Ferguson could have a big week for Dallas. Romeo Doubs against the Saints. I think he's going to get plenty, and he's not a starter, so he could be a sleeper this weekend. Tua Tagovailoa. I know he had a horrible game last week, but man, this is an interesting spot. The Niners are coming in all banged up, and maybe this is Mike McDaniel's finally chance to be Papa coach, Shanahan, because he was with Shanahan so long. So those are my sleepers, Dave. What about yours?
Yeah, I like the Dobbs one. I like Watson as well. Watson's looking better and better every week. He made a couple nice catches this past week. He usually came on strong last year towards the second half too. So I like Watson as well. So I do like Dobbs too, like you said. I like Cooper Rush this week against Tampa Bay's D. Their secondary is horrible. They got some injury problems as well in their secondary. I like that matchup for Cooper Rush. And Jalen Tolbert, too, actually might be a deeper sleeper, but I think he could do well, too. He had a touchdown this past week, and he's had a couple touchdowns over the past couple weeks as well. I do like Tua this week. I like that matchup. Desmond Ridder, actually, I like him against the Jaguars. I think he could have a good game. He's starting this week, too, so he's got something to prove, actually. Still a little chip on his shoulder. I think he could do all right this week. I like McCormick, too, against that Jaguars D. I like both of those guys. I do like the Minnesota D, like you said. I like that matchup for them. I do like Jerome Ford as well. That was another one I like this week. And I would borderline Jameis Winston too if he's starting. But like you said, I think he did lose his job as well. So I think Robinson is going to start this week actually. So I like that matchup. I do like Taj Spears as well. I think Anthony Richardson could do well too this week, even though the Titans have a good pass D. I think Richardson can get quite a few rushing yards actually this week because they don't have a good run D actually. I do like Caleb Williams. It's actually a good call. When they played him last time, they should have won that game, or should at least tied it and went into overtime. And the Detroit's lost more players since that game, so I definitely like that. I like Jameson Williams pick too. I agree with that. Kyler Murray, he's already a starter already, but I think he could have a big game against the Panthers. And then actually I think Marvin Harrison too. I think he's kind of like borderline starter right now. I think he's struggled the last couple of weeks.
He had a couple bad weeks in a row,
Yeah.
so I think he's back to the bench actually, Dave. So that he's fair game, I think.
Yeah, I think Marvin Harrison. I like him this week against the Panthers actually this week too. I think he kind of breaks out this week. They've been trying to go to him a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but he's still been struggling a little bit. But I think this is a breakout game this week. Kirk Cousins, depending on how he does tonight, but I still like him this week. The next week too against the Giants. Great matchup. I think Cousins can have a big game. Even Kyle Pitts too. I think he's been struggling a little bit too. I like those guys both trending up this week against that poor Giants D.
I wonder if J.C. Horn's going to cover Marvin Harrison most of the time. I don't know if they switch.
Yeah, that would be interesting. If he does cover him, then it probably downgrade him a little bit because of that. But because J.C. Horn has actually been playing pretty well. I actually do like Carson Wentz this week against the Houston Texans too. I like that matchup. I don't think Texans have that great of a pass D as well. And Wentz is a veteran, and he has a lot of weapons on the Chiefs, so I think he could have a big game as well.
All right, 100% good stuff. Why don't you move right into busts?
All right, some of my busts. Bo Nix against the tough Chargers D. I don't like him this week, and vice versa. I don't like Justin Herbert against the tough Broncos D. Those are two tough defense playing. Probably going to be a little bit lower scoring game. I would probably take the under on that game, depending on what it's at. But yeah, that's going to be a tough game. I don't like Russell Wilson this week against the Ravens. Ravens got a good defense. I don't like Russell Wilson. He struggled last week. He's back to being Russell Wilson, the real one that we know. So he's a good week strung together there, but he struggled this past week. I don't like that matchup. CJ Stroud, I think, struggles against the Chiefs. Chiefs defense is one of the top 5 defenses right now. So I don't like Stroud. I don't like that matchup. Mixon could still be solid this week, but I don't like Stroud. He's been struggling this whole year too as well. He hasn't had a really big breakout game yet. Another one I don't like Jaden Daniels against the Eagles. The Eagles defense has been looking legit. Both their lines are playing well. Defense has been playing better and better every week. I don't like the Commanders matchup this week against them. Brian Robinson either. I don't like him against the Eagles D. I don't like that matchup. I don't like the Seahawks against the Minnesota D. We already talked about that. I'm not going to get too much into that. I think the Bills bounced back this week. They've been giving up quite a few points because they had all these shootouts, but I think the Bills clamped down on the Patriots, and Drake May kind of struggles against the Bills this week, along with Ramon Stevenson. I think they both struggle against that Bills D. They're starting to get some of their linebackers back healthy too as well, which is going to help. I don't like Baker Mayfield against the Cowboys D. I think the Cowboys D, they're getting some healthy guys back too. They're getting some guys back in their secondary. Bland and Diggs are both back now. Dallas actually had a good D a couple of years ago when they had everyone healthy. So I think Baker could struggle a little bit this week. I don't like Rattler or backup running back Kendry Miller against the Packers D. They actually been playing better as well.
Yeah, I don't agree with Baker. After they lost Trayvon Diggs on the Cowboys, I think that was just more about how bad the Panthers were. I think that the Cowboys are in a weird spot now because they got the Eagles on deck. But otherwise, I agree with most of the other ones you said. I agree. I think the Ravens might destroy the Steelers. They're in a revenge spot too. They're going to want to take them out. So I put Najee Harris even.
I'd agree with that.
That's not good. Travis Kelce with Wentz is very suspect too, and he hasn't had a good year as it is. So I don't like Travis Kelce that much. DeAndre Hopkins too. You can think about that. Kenneth Walker against the Vikings. The Vikings have the number 1 rush D in the land, so I don't like Kenneth Walker this week. It's going to be tough because they're probably going to be stacking the box if it's going to be Sam Howell. So I don't know how the Seahawks are going to move the ball. They're going to try to use deception, I guess, and a lot of play action is what I'm understanding. What I would do. Joe Mixon against the Chiefs is kind of suspect as it is too. I'm a little worried about that. The Chiefs, whenever the Chiefs hurt a quarterback or any team really, the defense really steps up the next game. So I expect a boost from the Chiefs defense. I might even take the under in that game. Terry McLaurin against the Eagles, kind of like for the same reason you said Jaden Daniels. So I agree with that. And Brian Robinson is a little suspect. who knows what the game's going to end up be like. But I'd look a couple other directions if you have one. And Anthony Richardson against the Titans, man. I don't like Anthony Richardson. I don't know how the Colts can even get up after losing. They lost their playoff hopes. It's a tough week for the Colts to get up, man. And so I'm very worried about them. Good stuff. Let's go to our nasty sleeper, Dave. And you already said mine, so I'll go first. You said it in your trending up. I got Sincere McCormick against the Jaguars, baby. Sincere McCormick is going to be huge. I know he's having a tough game against the Eagles, the Falcons right now, but that's because the Falcons are in like total win or die mode.
Yeah,
they've been embarrassed the last 3-4 weeks. But I think Sincere McCormick will have a great game against the Jags.
All right, I'm going on the opposite side of that matchup. Actually, I'm going with Mac Jones. He's a deep sleeper this week, but he's been playing better and better, actually filling in for Trevor Lawrence. He had a few good games, too, back when he was with the Patriots. So I like him against that poor Raiders. The Raiders defense doesn't stop anybody, and that Raiders defense is just horrible. Max Crosby is out this week, I think, as well. So I'm going with Mac Jones as my dynasty sleeper this week, and he can help you get to that second round or the Super Bowl of the playoffs in some leagues.
Return of the Mac. Here we go. Well, you know what? He was great until the end of the game last week. Dude, that disgusting picks. Like, dude, you just let that thing fly. Oh my God. Well, that's how it is sometimes. Anything we miss?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, hey guys, if you have any questions, feel free to tweet us at The Oddsbreakers. Email us at info@theoddsbreakers.com. Have a great rest of your week. We'll be back for some college football playoffs, and go get some winners.